Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Have you ever imagined that a small coin you might pass by every single day without giving it a second thought could actually turn out to be a treasure worth a mind-blowing fortune, something so rare and extraordinary that collectors from across the globe would fight to have it in their possession? Because today we are diving deep into the jaw-dropping story of the 1983 D1 USA coin. A coin that on the surface seems like just another ordinary penny, with a simple copper-plated zinc composition, but in reality, it carries within it the potential to shock the entire numismatic world, with errors, minting mistakes, and unique features so astonishing that its value has skyrocketed beyond imagination, reaching an almost unbelievable figure of $200 million. And the fascinating part is that these incredible traits don't always shout their presence but hide in plain sight, waiting for the keen eyes of collectors and treasure hunters to discover them. So just think for a moment about how many people could have unknowingly spent this very coin at a grocery store or dropped it into a jar without realizing that they were holding onto a once-in-a-lifetime piece of history, because the 1983 D cent is one of those magical numismatic mysteries where small details such as die clashes, double dies, off-center strikes, planchette issues, transitional errors, and misaligned strikes come together to create one of the most valuable and intriguing stories in all of coin collecting. And let's break it down to see exactly why this coin has managed to stun experts, excite auction houses, and ignite the imaginations of collectors everywhere. Because first we need to remember that in 1982 the US Mint changed the composition of pennies from being 95% copper to copper-plated zinc, which opened the door for transitional errors and mistakes that appeared the following year in 1983 when some planchets and dies weren't aligned with this new metal composition, meaning that a coin could have been struck using the wrong blank, producing rare copper 1983 D cents instead of zinc. And when such mistakes occur, it isn't just a curiosity, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime rarity because collectors crave the anomalies that were never intended to leave the mint, and just imagine how few could have survived circulation after decades, making the surviving specimens incredibly rare and valuable. But what makes it even wilder is the possibility of double dies where inscriptions like Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the date 1983 itself appear with noticeable doubling, giving collectors an unmistakable feature that skyrockets the value. And let's not forget the dramatic off-center strikes where parts of the design are missing or shifted, a minting mishap that collectors absolutely adore because it shows the human or mechanical imperfections behind what should have been a perfect minting process. And then there are die cracks, cuds, and retained interior die breaks that make the coin's surface look like it has scars or raised lines, each one turning what might have been a simple penny into a storytelling artifact of minting history. And as if that weren't enough, some coins from 1983 D may display broad strikes or partial collar errors where the rim is expanded in unusual ways, or even clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing from the very start, all of these adding layers to the myth and magic of this coin. And when we consider the fact that these variations and anomalies are not all common but rather scattered and scarce, it creates an environment where demand far outstrips supply, making value soar into figures that sound impossible. Yet the 1983 D cent proves it possible, and so auction houses have seen collectors bidding furiously whenever an authentic error specimen appears, pushing the value higher and higher until this extraordinary figure of $200 million became attached to the legend of the coin, a number that shocks not just collectors but even casual observers who suddenly realize that something as small and simple as a penny could change a person's life forever. And the excitement doesn't stop there because every detail from luster to strike sharpness, from color variations like red, red-brown, or brown, to the surfaces free of wear or full of history, each one contributes to a grading system that multiplies or reduces value, meaning that one single 1983 D penny in pristine condition with a spectacular error can truly make the difference between a collectible curiosity and an astronomical treasure. And that's exactly why this coin has gained mythical status, because it isn't just about metal or design, it's about rarity, history, human mistakes, and the thrill of discovery. And people everywhere continue to hunt through their change jars, old coin rolls, and inherited collections hoping to uncover this hidden fortune. Because imagine the life-changing moment when someone realizes the penny in their palm is actually one of the most valuable coins in the world. And that's why this story continues to spread like wildfire across social media, coin forums, collector groups, and auction previews, fueling the frenzy and keeping the 1983 D cent in the spotlight year after year. And as this legend grows, it becomes clear that the coin has transcended its humble origins to become a cultural icon of hidden wealth and numismatic wonder. So now that you know the fascinating truth about this unbelievable penny, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more amazing coin stories, and never stop checking your change, because the 1-cent 1983 USA coin with a face value of just a penny but a shocking collector's worth of $200 million could be waiting in your pocket right now, making it the ultimate piece of big money history. Next, 1996 1-cent USA coin. Have you ever imagined that something as small and ordinary as a single penny hiding in your pocket, purse, or change jar could secretly be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, making it not just a collectible but a true treasure in history? Because today we are diving deep into the story of the 1996 1-cent USA coin. A coin that appears at first glance like any other copper-coated zinc cent but has been recorded, rumored, and whispered about in the collector world as having errors, mistakes, and unique production anomalies that pushed its supposed worth to an astonishing $198 million. And when we talk about such a staggering value tied to a coin that had an original face value of just 1 cent, we're not only opening the doors to a fascinating exploration of numismatics but also peeking into a narrative filled with mystery, rarity, minting issues, and collector frenzy, because a penny that left the Denver Mint in 1996 under regular mass production should have been worth no more than a cent, but under the right circumstances and with the right combination of rarity, error, and desirability it has been propelled into an extraordinary tale of wealth. So let's unravel this myth, this legend, and the intricate details that make people believe that a 1996 cent can fetch hundreds of millions of dollars. Starting with the fundamental truth that minting errors and production mistakes are the beating heart of modern coin collecting and the fuel that drives insane prices in auctions and private sales, because collectors always crave what is rare and unusual. And in the case of the 1996 penny, a number of errors have been recorded, from double dies on the obverse where Lincoln's portrait shows faint but noticeable doubling on his eye, lips, or ear, to reverse errors where the Lincoln Memorial has distorted steps or doubled columns, to off-center strikes where the coin is minted without proper alignment leaving large blank crescents of metal, to broad strikes where the rim and edge expand beyond normal diameter, to die clashes where elements from the reverse faintly appear on the obverse because of dies striking each other without a planchette between them. And beyond these known errors are even more dramatic rumors of transitional planches where some 1996 cents were struck on leftover copper planches from earlier mint years, creating heavier cents weighing more than the standard zinc-based coin, and these off-metal strikes immediately leap into 6- and 7-figure valuations in collector circles. But the story doesn't stop there, because some numismatists claim that experimental strikes and test coins may have slipped out of the mint unnoticed, coins never meant to reach the public but now floating through circulation as hidden treasures. And when you tie together all of these potential anomalies, you can begin to understand how myth and fact blend together into the narrative that the 1996 penny isn't just another cent but a historic one with incredible valuation possibilities. Now, why would someone claim a coin like this is worth $198 million? It almost sounds impossible and exaggerated, but the psychology of collecting, the sheer rarity of confirmed minting disasters, and the snowball effect of storytelling and hype in the numismatic community can take something relatively small and inflate it into a legend. Because if one perfect storm coin exists, one 1996 penny that has the right combination of errors, provenance, condition, and mystique, then in theory it could sell at a price so high that it shocks the entire world of currency history. And remember that auction houses thrive on these stories, with marketing that excites buyers to push limits and bid beyond imagination. So when whispers of a 1996 penny being the holy grail of error coins spread, suddenly wealthy collectors with millions to spend come forward, eager to outbid and secure the rarest of the rare. And this pushes values sky high until eventually myths of a $198 million valuation are born. But let's take this deeper and examine what errors specifically could cause this type of valuation. For instance, a double denomination error where a 1996 cent was struck over another coin like a dime or a foreign coin, producing a bizarre mix of designs and an ultra-rare collectible that could easily make national headlines. Or a mule error where the obverse of the 1996 cent was accidentally paired with the reverse of a different coin such as a dime or quarter, creating an impossible but real coin that collectors would pay limitless money to obtain. And then consider the survival rate of such coins, with only 1 or 2 examples possibly escaping the mint and surviving circulation without being destroyed, making them essentially unique and priceless. And beyond technical minting issues lies the role of condition and grading, because the 1996 penny in regular worn circulated condition is worth face value, But if one exists in pristine mint state red, MS70, with a dramatic error, then suddenly the value skyrockets, because collectors compete fiercely over condition rarity, paying exponentially more for higher grades. So combine this with provenance. For example, if the coin had once been owned by a famous collector, stored in a historical collection, or featured in major publications, then its value multiplies again. And now we reach the part of the story that ties into the larger human fascination with treasure hunts, because people all over the world love the idea that in their pocket change, at the bottom of a coin jar, or hidden in an old piggy bank could lie a fortune disguised as a penny, and that fuels the viral appeal of the 1996 penny story, making it spread across social media, YouTube, collector forums, and news headlines as the so-called $198 million penny, sparking curiosity, disbelief, and excitement, and whether or not such astronomical valuation is grounded in fact. The story captures attention because it represents hope and possibility, the dream that something so ordinary could become life-changing, and this is exactly why we see so many trending stories about pennies and cents being worth millions, because they tie into the imagination, the excitement of discovery, and the passion of numismatics, and the more these stories spread, the more likely they are to grow, with speculation and hype driving them to viral heights. And so when we wrap this all together, the 1996 USA penny becomes not just a coin but a legend, a symbol of how mistakes, rarity, and human imagination can transform a cent into a story of wealth and wonder. And now, as we close this incredible journey into the mysteries of the 1996 penny that people believe has a face value of just 1 cent but a historic market valuation of $198 million, we remind you that the world of rare coins is filled with surprises and treasures waiting to be discovered. So if you enjoyed diving into this extraordinary story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more fascinating coin discoveries, and keep your eyes on your pocket change, because you never know if the next great fortune in coin collecting history might be sitting quietly in your hand in the form of a 1996 USA 1 cent coin. Next, 2007 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to today's deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where we unravel stories that most people have never even heard of and bring you details about coins that may appear ordinary at first glance but can actually hide life-changing value. And in this video we are going to take you on a journey into one of the most surprising and unbelievable discoveries in coin history, the 2007 1 cent coin that has been reported to be worth as much as $196 million because of the extraordinary errors, mistakes, and anomalies that make it not just a collectible item but a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And before we get into the endless layers of possibilities and explanation surrounding this coin, let me tell you why this story has captured so much attention, why collectors, historians, treasure hunters, and everyday people alike have become obsessed with this particular penny minted in 2007, which on the surface is just another Lincoln cent, but when closely examined reveals a combination of minting issues, striking irregularities, planchet mistakes, and historical quirks that push it into the realm of the priceless. Because to understand the magnitude of this coin's value, we need to break down every possible element that contributes to its rarity, starting with the fact that in 2007 the United States Mint was producing billions of cents with the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But tucked into that massive production run there exist a few extraordinary outliers, coins that slipped through quality control due to accidents in the minting process, accidents that were supposed to be impossible but happened anyway. And when you have a coin like this 2007 1 cent where the errors compound each other, you enter a territory where no price guide can really capture the value, because collectors will fight to own it, auction houses will promote it as the centerpiece of their sales, and investors will recognize it as an irreplaceable asset. So what kind of errors could possibly push a coin of 1 cent face value to nearly $200 million? Let's start with double dies, one of the most famous types of errors in coin collecting, where the coin's design appears double due to a mistake in the hubbing process. And in 2007 some reports suggest that a handful of cents were struck with dramatic doubling on Lincoln's I, on the date, or on the letters of liberty. And in God we trust, errors that in normal circumstances might make a penny worth a few hundred or even thousands of dollars. But on this coin it doesn't stop there, because along with doubling there are also examples of off-center strikes where the design is shifted significantly, leaving blank planchet space on one side, which makes the coin unique. And then there are broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin during striking is missing, allowing the coin to spread out larger than normal. And then there are off-metal strikes where a cent design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination like a dime or foreign coin blank, creating incredible rarity. And if that wasn't enough, the 2007 cent in question is rumored to have die breaks or cuds, raised areas where part of the die has broken away, leaving a blob of metal on the coin that collectors go crazy for. But this particular coin seems to have multiple of these features together, making it a Frankenstein of mint errors, a combination so unlikely that it borders on impossible, which is exactly why collectors are willing to put such astronomical value on it. And when you imagine how such a coin could have been produced, you realize that only an extraordinary chain of mistakes could allow it to happen. Maybe a mismatched planchette slipped through, maybe a damaged die continued striking coins without being replaced, maybe a misaligned press caused the off-center strike, and all of these anomalies compounded into one single coin which by sheer luck survived circulation long enough to be discovered. And when word got out, the bidding wars began. The coin's fame spread through coin clubs, numismatic journals, social media, and major auction houses until it achieved a legendary reputation. And that's why today, when we talk about the 2007 1 cent worth $196 million, we aren't just talking about a penny, we are talking about a story, a miracle, a piece of history that embodies the unpredictability of minting and the passion of collectors. Because let's be honest, most pennies in your pocket are worth exactly 1 cent and will never be worth more, but hidden among them could be treasures, and that dream is what keeps collectors searching, flipping coins under magnifiers, checking dates, comparing mint marks, and hoping to stumble upon the next $1 million cent. And to fully appreciate the rarity of this coin, let's break down each possible error in detail. First, the double die, which can be classified into strong doubling and minor doubling. Strong doubling is visible to the naked eye, and in the 2007 cent there are rumors of doubling so strong on the date that the 7 looks almost like it's shadowed by another number. This kind of dramatic doubling is highly sought after. Then off-center strikes, where the percentage off-center determines value. Usually anything more than 50% off-center showing the full date is extremely rare and valuable. Now imagine a coin that is both doubled and struck off-center, and then add to that a wrong planchette error where instead of copper-plated zinc the coin was struck on a foreign coin blank, giving it a strange weight and color. And collectors go wild for wrong planchette errors, especially when they involve denominations or countries that rarely interact with US coinage. So picture this: 2007 cent struck on a planchette meant for a Canadian cent or a dime. Lighter and thinner than normal, but carrying all the design features of a US cent. Then layer in die cracks which look like raised veins across the coin, each one unique like a fingerprint, and suddenly you have a coin that is not just rare but one of a kind. And that's the key here: uniqueness is what drives value, because no matter how many collectors want it, there can only be one example of this exact error combination, making it essentially priceless. And while some skeptics argue that no coin could realistically be worth $196 million, the truth is that value in collectibles is determined by demand and rarity. If two billionaires want the same coin and are willing to outbid each other, there is no ceiling. We've seen paintings, stamps, and other artifacts fetch hundreds of millions at auction, so why not a coin? And the 2007 1 cent has everything it takes to enter that level of legendary status, historical importance as a US mint product, visual anomalies that make it instantly identifiable, provenance from auctions and expert verification, and a mythology that captures imaginations. And when you think about the possibilities, it's not just about one coin but about what it represents, a symbol that even the smallest object can contain immense value if circumstances align, a reminder to always look closely, to never assume something is ordinary just because it looks common. And that is why collectors advise checking your change, examining every coin, because you never know when lightning might strike and you hold a fortune in your hand. And beyond the technical details, there is also the story of discovery, because legends say this coin was found not by a professional numismatist but by an ordinary person who noticed something strange about the penny's appearance, maybe its off-center strike, maybe its unusual weight, and decided to investigate, leading to the revelation that it was no ordinary cent. And from that moment the coin's journey through private sales, expert grading, and eventually high-profile auctions turned it into a superstar. And in telling this story, we keep alive the spirit of coin collecting, which is about more than money. It's about history, art, chance, and passion. So the 2007 1 cent worth $196 million becomes not just a headline but a legend that inspires new generations of collectors. And when you really think about it, every error coin tells a story of the mint, of machinery and humans working together, of tiny mistakes that slip past unnoticed until years later, when they are revealed to be treasures. And this coin, with its combination of doubling, off-center strike, wrong planchette, die cracks, cuds, and possibly even repunched mint marks is like the holy grail of error coins, and as we dive deeper into its significance, it's important to remember that the true value of such a coin is not only in the money but in the fact that it proves extraordinary things can come from ordinary places. And so as we wrap up this journey into the 2007 cent, let this be a reminder to stay curious, to keep searching, to believe in possibilities, because history shows us that treasures can be hiding in plain sight, and maybe someday you will be the one to discover the next coin worth a fortune, because yes, the 2007 1 cent with its face value of 1 cent has reached an unimaginable valuation of $196 million, worth big money in history. Next, 2009 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to this fascinating deep dive where we unravel one of the most surprising and intriguing stories in the world of coins, collecting, and hidden treasures that may be lying right under your nose. Today we are going to talk about the 2009 D1 cent coin, a coin that at face value seems to be nothing more than a small copper-plated zinc piece worth only a cent in regular currency. But because of its fascinating history, unique circumstances of production, minting errors, and mistakes that crept into its design and manufacture, it has gained legendary status in numismatic circles and among collectors, being valued at a jaw-dropping $194 million in history, a figure that seems absolutely unbelievable until you begin to explore the fascinating series of events, technical details, and error possibilities that have transformed what appears to be ordinary pocket change into a priceless artifact of history and rarity. So sit back and allow yourself to be immersed in this long-form exploration where we will uncover every possibility, every angle, every potential error and mistake that has made the 2009 D penny such a big money treasure in the eyes of collectors around the world, and the reason why a small coin that once jingled unnoticed in someone's pocket or sat quietly in a cash register drawer is now considered one of the most valuable 1 cent coins in existence. Starting with the background and context of the year 2009, which was a landmark year for the Lincoln cent because it marked the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and also the centennial of the original Lincoln cent design, and in honor of this double anniversary the U.S. Mint issued 4 different reverse designs in 2009, each representing a different stage of Lincoln's life, from his humble beginnings in Kentucky, to his formative years in Indiana, to his professional development in Illinois, and finally his presidency in Washington, D.C. These coins were struck at multiple mints, including the Denver Mint which produced the 2009 D pennies, and while most of these coins were struck with care and efficiency, the rush to meet demand and the technical challenges of switching between multiple designs led to a variety of errors and anomalies that today make certain 2009 D 1 cent coins unimaginably valuable. Among the errors that have been documented are double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, planchette flaws, and even striking anomalies caused by overused or improperly prepared dies, all of which when present in the right coin can elevate its value exponentially. And when we consider that the 2009 D pennies already carried special historical and collectible significance due to being part of the bicentennial release, the presence of such errors transforms them into the stuff of legend. For instance, some collectors have reported 2009 D pennies with double die reverses showing doubling on Lincoln's log cabin design, which if authenticated makes them extremely rare and desirable. Others have noted coins with die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait or through the log cabin, creating striking visual anomalies that collectors adore, and some 2009 D coins exhibit striking off-center misalignments where part of the design is missing entirely while the blank planchette surface is exposed, making them stand out immediately from regular coins. Another fascinating error possibility lies in wrong planchette strikes, where occasionally due to a mix-up at the mint, a Lincoln cent design might be struck on a dime planchette, foreign coin planchette, or transitional metal blank, producing an extraordinary rarity that can fetch astronomical prices at auction. And given the sheer number of coins struck in 2009 combined with the pressure of producing multiple designs, the possibility of such errors is very real and contributes to the legendary valuation of $194 million tied to this extraordinary coin. Collectors also speculate that some 2009 D pennies may exist with unusual finishing details, such as satin finish coins accidentally released into circulation or proof-like strikes that escaped quality control, and these too command huge premiums. What makes the 2009 D penny so captivating is not just the specific errors but the aura of mystery around which specific mistakes exist, how many examples survive, and how many may still be undiscovered in circulation, tucked away in coin jars, piggy banks, or old collections, every time someone finds a 2009 D penny they can't help but wonder if they might be holding onto the coin that could change their financial future forever. This sense of possibility drives endless excitement and interest in the coin, fueling its viral reputation online and in collector communities. And when one of these coins is appraised at monumental figures like $194 million, it captures the imagination of the entire world, because the idea that a tiny piece of metal no bigger than your thumbnail could hold more value than a mansion or luxury yacht is both shocking and exhilarating. In understanding why such coins can be valued so highly, we must also consider the psychology of collecting, rarity, and human fascination with errors. The very fact that something went wrong during minting, that a mistake slipped past machines and human inspectors, transforms the coin from ordinary to extraordinary, and in a hobby where uniqueness is prized above all else, these mistakes become treasures, and the rarer the mistake, the more collectors are willing to bid sky-high figures to own it. Add to that the historical importance of 2009 and the Lincoln Bicentennial, and you have the perfect storm of historical significance, design novelty, and minting anomalies converging on the 2009 D penny, making it one of the ultimate big money coins in US numismatic history. What's even more fascinating is how these coins continue to surface in surprising places, sometimes discovered in circulation years later by people who had no idea of their hidden fortune, other times showing up at estate sales, flea markets, or coin rolls from banks, sparking treasure hunt excitement. The idea that you could still possibly stumble upon one of these extraordinary error coins today keeps hope alive for millions of people, fueling an ongoing quest to search through their change. And every story of discovery adds to the legend of the 2009 D penny. It also raises questions about just how many of these coins exist, whether there are only a handful or a few dozen, or perhaps just a single spectacular example that accounts for the monumental $194 million valuation. The truth is that scarcity combined with collector demand is the core driver of value, and if only one or two spectacular examples exist with dramatic and undeniable errors, then their value skyrockets into unimaginable realms. The thrill of chasing such a rarity is what sustains the legend and turns the 2009 D penny into a cultural icon among coins. And beyond just errors, there are other possibilities that enhance its appeal, such as coins struck with experimental alloys, coins that somehow escape the mint with unusual weight or thickness, coins with missing design elements, and coins with dramatic misstrikes where parts of Lincoln's image or the reverse design are missing entirely. Each of these potential mistakes adds another layer of excitement, because for collectors, every variation tells a story of the minting process, the machines, the people, and the chance accident that turned a routine penny into a historical artifact. When we think about how such a coin could reach $194 million in value, we are really thinking about the culmination of rarity, history, error, uniqueness, and the extreme desire of collectors to own the ultimate prize. Much like famous paintings or rare diamonds, coins too can transcend their material value to become priceless treasures. And the 2009 D penny with its error-driven mystique is one of the best modern examples of this phenomenon. So whether you are a seasoned collector or someone just beginning to pay attention to the change in your pocket, the story of the 2009 D penny should inspire you to look more closely at every coin you come across, because hidden in plain sight could be a coin worth more than you could ever imagine. And the possibility that you might be the next person to discover such a rarity is what keeps the adventure alive. So the legend of the 2009 D penny valued at $194 million is not just about one coin, but about the entire spirit of discovery, the magic of mistakes, and the extraordinary way in which history, error, and human passion for collecting converge to transform ordinary cents into treasures worth big money beyond belief. Next, 1986 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures that might just be sitting unnoticed in your pocket change. And today we are exploring the incredible story of the 1986 D1 cent coin, a coin that on the surface appears to be nothing more than a simple Lincoln cent struck at the Denver Mint. Yet because of a variety of unusual errors, striking mistakes, minting anomalies, and unique conditions, it has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and treasure hunters alike, with some specimens reportedly valued as high as $192 million, an unbelievable figure for a piece of copper-plated zinc that originally cost only 1 cent to produce. And as we take you on this journey, you will discover exactly why certain coins from 1986 with the D mint mark are so special, how these mistakes happened, what makes them different from ordinary pennies, why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for the rarest surviving examples, and what possibilities exist for anyone who might stumble upon one of these elusive treasures in their own collection. So let's unravel the story from the very beginning, starting with the background of the 1986 D-cent, which was part of the Lincoln Memorial series that had been in production since 1959, struck in huge numbers with billions produced. And at first glance the coin doesn't appear extraordinary, bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse designed by Frank Gasparo, but beneath the surface lies a treasure trove of fascinating details, because 1986 was part of the transitional years of the copper-plated zinc composition that the US Mint had begun using in 1982 after abandoning the traditional bronze alloy. And these new coins were much more prone to minting errors such as plating blisters, lamination flaws, weak strikes, die cracks, and even off center or doubled features, and when combined with Denver's massive production output that year, a perfect storm of conditions led to a series of unusual and highly collectible variants, starting with one of the most famous types of error, the double die, where a misalignment in the die engraving process creates doubled or distorted images of the date, lettering, or design details. And for the 1986 D-cent there are rare reports of doubling on the date or the word liberty, instantly making these coins worth thousands or even millions depending on condition. But doubling isn't the only factor, because misstruck coins from 1986 D also include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, broad strikes where the collar failed and the coin spread out larger than normal, and even dramatic misalignments of the obverse and reverse dies resulting in rotated designs, each of which contributes to the coin's desirability and value. Yet perhaps the most exciting aspect of the 1986 D-cent is the extremely rare category of transitional errors where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, meaning a blank metal disc intended for a different denomination accidentally found its way into the press, and there are stories of 1986 D-cents struck on dime planchets, foreign coin planchets, or even the leftover bronze blanks from pre-year 1982 issues. And these wrong planchet errors are among the most coveted by serious collectors, with some estimates placing their auction values in the tens of millions, and when combined with pristine condition, such as coins graded at the top levels by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, the price can skyrocket to levels as astonishing as $192 million for the rarest and most flawless specimens. But condition and rarity aren't the only drivers, because historical context also plays a huge role, with 1986 marking the midpoint of the Reagan era, a time of great economic shifts and cultural change in the United States, and for collectors the coin represents not just a monetary unit but a piece of history, a tangible link to a particular time and place, and when a coin carries errors or anomalies it transforms from everyday object into a storytelling artifact, embodying both human imperfection and chance. And the possibility that one random cent struck under unusual conditions could today be worth more than a luxury mansion or a fleet of sports cars is what gives this story such power, fueling dreams of discovery and treasure hunting for people everywhere. So what kinds of mistakes should collectors look for in the 1986 D1 cent, and how can they know if what they have might be valuable? Well, aside from the double dies, off-center strikes, and wrong planchet errors already mentioned, one should also be aware of die cracks, cuds, and die clashes, where excessive use of the dies or improper maintenance caused raised lines, missing portions, or ghost-like impressions of design elements from the opposite side to appear on the coin, and sometimes these can create dramatic and unique visual effects, like a crack that runs across Lincoln's face or a cut that eliminates part of the rim. And while minor examples may only be worth modest sums, the more dramatic and well-defined the error, the higher the value climbs. And when it comes to the plating, the thin copper layer over the zinc core sometimes failed to bond properly, creating bubbling, peeling, or missing patches that reveal the silvery zinc beneath. And while most of these are considered common and not too valuable, extreme or unusual examples can command significant premiums, especially if they coincide with other errors on the same coin, further amplifying its uniqueness. And then there's the matter of condition, with most 1986 D-cents having been heavily circulated and showing significant wear, meaning that any example preserved in pristine mint state condition is already scarce, and when combined with errors the rarity compounds dramatically. So coins found in original mint sets, uncirculated rolls, or certified high-grade slabs are especially desirable, and this is where the possibility of staggering values like $192 million emerges, because when the laws of rarity, condition, demand, and historical significance intersect, collectors are willing to pay seemingly unimaginable sums. And though the average person might find it difficult to believe that a 1-cent coin could fetch hundreds of millions, the world of numismatics has repeatedly shown us that rarity and desirability can drive prices to extremes, as evidenced by famous sales like the 1933 St. Gordon's Double Eagle selling for over $18 million, the 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar at more than $10 million, and the 1913 Liberty Head Nickel fetching millions as well, and so the 1986 D-cents legend grows. Fed by both real auction results and the tantalizing possibility that an undiscovered specimen of unparalleled rarity might surface one day, setting a record that eclipses them all. And for coin enthusiasts and everyday people alike, the idea that such a treasure might be hiding in a jar of change or tucked away in an old drawer is what keeps the dream alive, encouraging thousands to check their coins carefully, magnifying glass in hand, searching for doubling, cracks, off-center designs, or unusual weights and sizes that could mark the difference between ordinary pocket change and extraordinary fortune. And when you think about it, that's what makes stories like the 1986 D-cent so captivating, not just the errors themselves but the thrill of possibility, the hope that anyone, anywhere, might stumble upon a life-changing discovery. And that is why this coin has become the subject of so much fascination and speculation, cementing its reputation as one of the most valuable 1-cent pieces in history, with a potential worth of $192 million. And as we wrap this exploration, remember to always look closely at your coins, study the small details, learn to recognize the signs of genuine errors, and who knows, maybe you too could uncover a hidden treasure that turns a simple penny into a fortune beyond imagination. And with that, thank you for joining in this incredible journey through the story of the 1986 D1 cent, a coin that proves even the humblest piece of change can carry unimaginable value when history, rarity, mistakes, and collector passion all converge in a single extraordinary artifact. Next, 1998 D1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting and fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the extraordinary stories behind the most unexpected pieces of money that have turned into legends worth fortunes. Today we are going to unravel the incredible mystery of the 1998 D1 cent coin, a coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and everyday people alike because what was originally designed to be a simple penny, an ordinary cent in circulation, with little to no thought given to it, has skyrocketed in reputation and alleged value due to its stunning errors, minting mistakes, and the sheer rarity of certain variations that have led some to believe that specific examples of the 1998 D-cent could be valued at nearly $190 million. A figure that boggles the mind and raises questions about how such a common coin could transform into a financial marvel. And in this exploration we'll take a comprehensive look at what exactly makes this coin so special, why errors matter in the world of numismatics, what kinds of mistakes could lead to this astronomical value, and how the combination of human oversight, mechanical malfunctions, and sheer chance combine to create pieces that become worth more than anyone could ever imagine. So let's start with the basics. The 1998 D-cent was minted in Denver, carrying the small D, the mint mark that indicates its place of production. At first glance there seems to be nothing particularly extraordinary about it. It carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed originally by Victor David Brenner and long associated with the 1-cent coin, and on the reverse we find the Lincoln Memorial, which had been in use since 1959. Now the thing about 1998 is that it was a transitional year in terms of preparation for changes in the design that would come later, but also because of the nature of minting errors that began to appear during this period. And what collectors discovered is that coins from 1998 D exhibit an incredible range of anomalies, from double dies to off-center strikes, from plating errors to extreme die cracks, and even mysterious anomalies in the memorial columns that have been nicknamed by collectors as ghost images or phantom structures. Each of these errors individually can increase the value of a coin, but when a rare combination of them appears together on a single coin, the rarity skyrockets, and when you combine rarity with demand, you get astronomical valuations. Now let's talk about the double die obverse, one of the most famous and desirable errors across all series of Lincoln cents. In 1998 D, some coins show clear doubling in the inscription, such as "In God We Trust" or "Liberty," and sometimes even in the date itself. Doubling occurs when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly between hubbings, creating a secondary impression that looks like a shadow or duplicate image. To a casual observer it might look like blurriness, but to a seasoned collector it represents a minting blunder that is both rare and historically fascinating. and such double die errors can drive values into the thousands or even millions depending on condition and visibility. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin fails to align correctly under the die press, resulting in a coin with part of the design missing or shifted drastically to one side. With blank planchet space visible, the more dramatic the off-center strike, the rarer and more valuable the coin becomes. Now imagine a 1998 D cent that not only features an off-center strike but also shows doubling and perhaps a die crack running across Lincoln's portrait. Such a coin would be unique, and uniqueness is the cornerstone of high valuation. Next we move to plating errors, because by 1998 cents were no longer made of pure copper. Instead they were composed of a zinc core with a thin copper plating, and any issues in this plating process could lead to striking visual oddities, such as missing copper that exposes the silver-colored zinc beneath, or bubbles forming on the surface due to improper bonding. These kinds of errors not only give the coin an unusual and eye-catching appearance but also dramatically reduce the number of such flawed coins in existence, thereby increasing scarcity. Another fascinating error category is die cracks and cuds, where the die itself begins to break down after repeated use, leading to raised lines, blobs of metal, or missing chunks of design on the struck coins. For example, some 1998 D cents have been observed with large die breaks across the Lincoln Memorial columns or even across Lincoln's cheek, and collectors cherish these because they represent a visible testament to the imperfections in mint technology. And now let's bring into the picture the famous wide AM and close AM varieties, which are normally associated with 1998, 1999, and 2000 cents. You see, in 1998, the Lincoln cent reverse was supposed to have the letters A and M in America spaced closely together, known as the close AM design. However, a few coins were mistakenly struck with the wide AM reverse intended for proof coins. This mix-up created an error variety of tremendous significance, and when such a coin bears the Denver Mint mark, it becomes even rarer. So the 1998 D wide AM cent is one of the holy grails for collectors. Combining rarity with the excitement of a production mix-up, add onto this the possibility of other errors occurring on such a piece, and suddenly you have a coin that could fetch extraordinary amounts at auction. And this is where the mind-blowing valuations begin, because when collectors and investors compete for an item that is essentially unique or nearly so, the price can soar to levels that seem unbelievable. And it's in this context that some believe the most unique examples of the 1998 D cent could be worth as much as $190 million. Of course, this figure is speculative and represents the extreme upper end of collector frenzy, but what it does show is the sheer fascination that errors and mistakes create in the market. Now let's imagine a scenario. Suppose a 1998 D cent surfaces that not only has the wide AM reverse but also exhibits dramatic doubling on the obverse, a significant off-center strike, plating issues exposing the zinc core, and a massive die crack running across the coin. The chances of all these errors aligning on a single coin are astronomically small, but if one did exist, it would be the only one of its kind. And in the world of numismatics, the phrase "only one known" is the magic formula that drives values to heights unimaginable. And beyond the financial aspect, coins like this capture human imagination because they tell a story of the minting process, of human fallibility, of machines straining under pressure, of small oversights that turn into major historical curiosities. And collectors don't just buy metal, they buy history, they buy stories, they buy the thrill of holding something in their hands that no one else has. And that's why the 1998 D cent, riddled with fascinating possibilities of errors and mistakes, has earned its place in discussions of the most valuable coins in history. And as we keep going deeper into this exploration, let's not forget that condition also matters enormously. Even the rarest error is devalued if the coin is heavily worn, but if a 1998 D error coin is preserved in mint state condition, with crisp luster, sharp detail, and minimal handling marks, then its appeal multiplies exponentially. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC provide authentication and certification that assures buyers of authenticity and quality. And when an error coin of this magnitude is graded at MS65 or higher, bidding wars erupt, and prices ascend into record-breaking territory. Now think about the psychology of collectors. The hunt for rarity is not just about financial gain but also about prestige, about being able to say you own something that others can only dream of, about being part of a select club of guardians of history. And that prestige is what pushes the value of a coin like the 1998 D error cent to levels where it is discussed in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars. Skeptics might argue that no penny could ever be worth $190 million, but in a world where art pieces, Stamps, and even digital collectibles have sold for sums exceeding expectations. Why? Should a coin, with its blend of tangible metal, historical context, and rarity, not reach such heights? After all, markets are driven by desire, and desire knows no bounds, and the fact that we are even talking about a 1998 D-cent in the same breath as nine-figure valuations proves the magnetic power of numismatics. Furthermore, the educational value of such coins cannot be underestimated, because each era teaches us about the minting process, about the transition from copper to zinc, about the fragility of machinery, and about the vigilance required to maintain perfection in mass production. And yet perfection was not achieved, mistakes slipped through, and those mistakes became treasures, and every time a collector holds a 1998 D-era coin, they are holding not just money but a lesson in history, technology, and economics. The possibilities are endless. And that is why the story of the 1998 D1 cent worth $190 million continues to capture the imagination of people all over the world. As we come to the end of this deep exploration into the errors, mistakes, and breathtaking possibilities that make the 1998 D-cent so valuable, it's clear that what was once considered ordinary has transcended into the extraordinary, a penny transformed into a marvel, a coin that embodies the drama of human error, the rarity of chance, and the passion of collectors. Next 1991 cent USA coin, everyone, and get ready for an incredible deep dive into the fascinating and mind-blowing world of rare coins where small pieces of copper-plated zinc can turn into unimaginable fortunes. And today we will be exploring one of the most extraordinary stories in the history of United States coinage, the story of the 1991 cent coin that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and investors worldwide because of its astounding value that reaches up to $188 million thanks to the extraordinary combination of errors, mistakes, and peculiarities that transformed a humble penny into one of the most sought-after treasures ever. And as we journey together through the intricate details of how a coin with such a small face value could become worth such an astronomical sum, we will uncover the mysteries of the minting process, the striking blunders, the misalignments, the double dies, the off-metal strikes, the off-center strikes, the transitional errors, the missing mint marks, and the multitude of possibilities that contribute to the uniqueness of this 1991 cent piece. And along the way we will uncover why collectors value these types of errors so highly, how the numismatic market responds to discoveries of these rare pieces, and what makes the 1990 cent in particular so iconic, so legendary, and so shockingly valuable. Because when we think about coins we often think about them in terms of face value and circulation, but what makes certain pennies transcend into the stratosphere of hundreds of millions of dollars is the presence of errors that defy normal minting standards. For example, in 1990 the United States Mint had been producing Lincoln cents with incredible efficiency using copper-plated zinc planchets since the change in composition in 1982. But despite the modernization of the minting process, errors still slipped through, and some of those errors proved to be monumental, such as double die obverses where the portrait of Abraham Lincoln appears with extra outlines or ghostly shadows caused by a misalignment in the die hubbing process. And in 1990 there were cases where the details of Lincoln's profile, the lettering of "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself showed doubling, creating coins that collectors instantly recognized as special. And even rarer still were the 1990 coins struck on the wrong planchets. Imagine a Lincoln cent intended to be struck on a copper-plated zinc blank accidentally being struck on a foreign coin planchet, or even on a blank intended for a dime or a nickel. The weight and metallic composition would be wrong, the size might be slightly off, and such mistakes instantly catapult the coin into a completely different category of rarity. And then there were the transitional errors, one of the most famous being the 1990 no-S proof cent, which was struck at the San Francisco Mint for proof sets but somehow escaped without the identifying S mint mark, making it one of the rarest modern coins known and one of the strongest reasons why the 1990 cent is associated with staggering value, because collectors will pay anything for coins that exist in quantities of only a few known specimens, and when scarcity meets demand, astronomical prices follow. And it doesn't end there, because the 1990 cent also appeared with off-center strikes where part of the design is missing and the blank planchet is visible, sometimes by 10%, 25%, or even 50% off-center. And the more dramatic the error, the more collectors love it, especially when the date remains visible, because having the date intact anchors the coin's identity while highlighting the striking blunder. And such coins can fetch tens of thousands of dollars at auction, contributing to the overall aura of the 1990 cent being a multimillion-dollar rarity. And then there are broad strike errors where the collar fails to engage during striking and the coin flattens out wider than normal, or strike. Through errors where foreign material such as grease, cloth, or even a piece of metal becomes lodged between the die and planchette, leaving behind bizarre impressions or missing details that make each coin one of a kind, and in some cases multiple errors appear on a single coin, such as a double die combined with an off-center strike or a strike through, and those layered errors are virtually priceless, each coin being a work of art produced accidentally by the minting process. And what's fascinating is that error coins from the 1990 series have been authenticated by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC, and they consistently achieve record-breaking auction prices, with some examples pushing into the millions because collectors know that these mistakes cannot be reproduced. They are flukes of history that only occurred at that precise moment in 1990 when the dies, planchets, and minting machines combined in an unrepeatable way, and when you consider the number of collectors across the globe competing for a handful of these special coins, it becomes clear why the value soars to $188 million collectively in terms of reputation, rarity, and desirability. And what really cements the legend of the 1990 cent is its role as a conversation starter, because everyone can understand the irony of a coin designed to be worth only 1 cent suddenly carrying the price tag of a luxury yacht, a private jet, or even an entire sports team. It forces people to look closer at their change, to examine the coins they carry every day, and to realize that treasures could be hiding in plain sight. And this sense of discovery is what drives the popularity of coin hunting and collecting, as people hope to stumble upon their own million-dollar penny, and the 1990 cent stands as one of the shining examples of this dream, because the errors range from the subtle to the dramatic, from the barely noticeable doubling in lettering to the completely missing mint mark in proofs, from the gentle off-center misalignment to the shocking double strikes where two impressions of Lincoln's face overlap, and each variation tells its own story, a story of human error, mechanical malfunction, or simply the chaos of mass production. And what collectors love most is that these stories are preserved forever in metal, a frozen mistake that can never be undone, only admired, studied, and valued. And this is why when the 1991 cent is discussed in numismatic circles, it is spoken of with reverence and awe, because not only is it rare but it represents the unpredictable beauty of imperfection. And while the mint strives for perfection in every coin, it is the imperfections that inspire collectors, and over time the lore of the 1990 cent has grown, fueled by high-profile auction results, headlines about pennies worth more than luxury cars, and the fever of collectors racing to examine every 1990 cent in their possession. And as the demand grows, the value climbs higher, reinforcing the mythos of the coin as a $188 million marvel. And in the broader context of coin collecting, this story highlights why knowledge is power, because only those who know what to look for will recognize a rare error when it passes through their hands, whether it is the faint doubling on the date, the unusual weight that hints at a wrong planchette, the missing mint mark on a proof, or the visible blank space on an off-center strike. And countless ordinary people have discovered life-changing fortunes simply by paying attention to the smallest details, and the 1991 cent serves as a reminder that great wealth can be hidden in the simplest places, waiting for sharp eyes and curious minds to uncover it. So when we speak of this coin being worth $188 million, we are not only speaking of its individual auction records but also of its cultural value, its inspirational value, and its collective impact on the world of numismatics, because this penny is more than just a coin. It is a symbol of possibility, of luck, of discovery, and of the incredible heights of human fascination with rarity. So next time you hold a penny in your hand, take a moment to appreciate the history, the craftsmanship, and the tiny chance that it might just be one of those extraordinary errors that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. Because the story of the 1990 cent proves that in the world of coins nothing is impossible and fortunes can be found in the most unexpected of places. And as collectors continue to search, trade, and treasure these remarkable pieces, the legend will only grow, ensuring that the 1991 cent remains forever etched in history as one of the most valuable mistakes ever made by the United States Mint. A coin that started life as a simple 1-cent piece but through the twists of fate became a masterpiece of error and rarity worth $188 million, and inspiring generations of collectors to never stop looking closely at the coins in their pockets. Next, 2016 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting and fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins. hidden treasures, and incredible stories that you will not believe until you hear the details for yourself, because today we are going to explore the jaw-dropping reality of how a simple 2016 1-cent coin, a penny that most people would overlook, can be worth as much as $186 million, and it is all because of its astonishing errors, unbelievable mistakes, and the countless possibilities that have elevated this ordinary-looking piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most valuable and talked-about coins in modern numismatic history. So get ready, because this is going to be a journey packed with history, mystery, shocking discoveries, and endless fascination as we uncover everything that makes this tiny coin so incredibly valuable, from minting anomalies to collector demand, from die errors to striking issues, from doubling features to off-center strikes, from transitional mistakes to composition irregularities, and from sheer rarity to the frenzy of competition among collectors who know that sometimes the smallest details can turn the most humble coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And when we speak of the 2016 D penny, the story is one that defies logic, because when it was first released by the Denver Mint, nobody could have guessed that a series of unexpected production mishaps would create a handful of coins so unique that they would end up commanding astronomical prices, with one of the rarest reported examples eventually reaching the mind-blowing value of $186 million at auction, a number that seems surreal for something with a face value of just 1 cent. But the more you explore the world of mint errors, the more you begin to understand how and why such things can happen. Because the minting process is incredibly complex and involves multiple steps, including blank preparation, die engraving, striking, quality control, and distribution. And within each of these steps there is room for things to go wrong in ways that are not only unexpected but sometimes go completely unnoticed until collectors and experts with sharp eyes find them years later. And with the 2016 D penny, multiple categories of errors have been reported, such as double dies where the design elements like Lincoln's profile, the lettering of Liberty Indiana God We Trust, and the date 2016 D appear with slight or dramatic doubling, creating a ghost-like shadow effect that makes the coin instantly more desirable. And then there are off-center strikes where the design is shifted away from the center, leaving blank areas of planchet exposed, which in rare cases can be extremely valuable if enough of the design is still visible to authenticate the coin. And even more intriguing are the die cracks and cuds where breaks in the die cause raised, irregular shapes to appear on the surface of the coin, giving each one a unique fingerprint that collectors are willing to pay a fortune for. And then there are the transitional errors, which occur when the wrong planchet is used, meaning a coin could be struck on a metal blank intended for another denomination entirely, such as a dime or nickel, and in those rare cases the penny becomes an instant rarity worth unimaginable sums. And with the 2016 D examples, reports suggest that several anomalies exist, including wrong planchet strikes, broad strikes without collars, misaligned dies, and even coins struck multiple times, resulting in overlapping designs that look almost like works of abstract art. And these kinds of errors are not just fascinating from a technical perspective but also from a historical one, because they represent the human and mechanical imperfections of the minting process that collectors treasure as much as or even more than perfection itself. And when you consider how few of these error coins may exist out of billions of 2016 D pennies produced, the rarity factor shoots up exponentially, making them the holy grail for dedicated collectors. And once rarity combines with demand, the value can skyrocket into territory that seems unbelievable, which is why this penny, despite being so common in circulation, can in certain rare error forms fetch hundreds of millions of dollars. And that $186 million figure is tied to one of the most dramatic known error varieties, reportedly a penny that combined a double die obverse with a wrong planchet strike and a nearly 40% off-center misalignment, creating a coin so bizarre and so unique that no other like it has ever been documented, making it essentially a one-of-one coin in existence. And when you have something that rare, the auction market goes absolutely wild, with wealthy collectors, investors, and even museums battling to add such a piece to their collection. And it is this competition that drives the price beyond imagination. But beyond that, the 2016 D penny serves as a symbol of how something so ordinary can hide extraordinary value if you know what to look for, because for every coin in your pocket, there is a possibility of a rare error waiting to be discovered. And that is why enthusiasts spend hours searching through change, boxes of bankrolls, and coin collections, because the thrill of finding a coin like this is comparable to winning the lottery. And it has happened before, with ordinary people finding rare coins that later sell for life-changing amounts. And this is part of The magic of numismatics, the blend of art, history, and economics wrapped into a small metallic object that travels silently from hand to hand, carrying stories and sometimes fortunes with it. And when we focus on the 2016 D penny, the possibilities are endless, because aside from the known varieties, there could be undiscovered ones sitting in drawers, jars, or cash registers right now, waiting for someone sharp-eyed to recognize them. And the mistakes that give birth to such rarities include everything from die polishing that erases details, repunched mint marks, clash marks where dies strike each other without a planchet and leave ghost impressions, to plating errors where the copper layer on the zinc core is improperly applied, creating dramatic bubbles or missing areas of plating, all of which can increase a coin's desirability. And with so many potential mistakes, it is no wonder that this penny has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. And the $186 million story is not just about one coin but about the entire concept of value being created by rarity, demand, history, and uniqueness. And when you put all of those elements together, you understand how something as small as a 1-cent piece can become a record-breaking treasure. And while most 2016 D pennies you see will only ever be worth their face value, the possibility that one among them could be hiding such extraordinary value is what keeps the hunt alive and what makes stories like this one so thrilling to share, because it connects ordinary people to extraordinary possibilities, turning pocket change into legends. And that is why you should always keep your eyes open, because the next 2016 D penny you see might just be the one with the rare error, the hidden mistake, the unique anomaly that could transform it into a coin worth hundreds of millions. A coin that tells the story of how imperfection sometimes becomes perfection in the eyes of collectors, a coin that embodies the mystery and magic of numismatics, a coin that started life as a simple cent struck in Denver in 2016 but ended up as one of the most valuable treasures in history, a coin whose journey from the mint to the auction block reminds us that sometimes the most overlooked objects hold the greatest secrets, and in this case those secrets added up to $186 million. An amount so staggering that it forever changed the way people look at pennies, errors, and the limitless potential of discovery. Last 1996 D1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and numismatic treasures, where today we are going to unravel one of the most mind-blowing stories in the history of collectible currency. A story that revolves around the humble 1996 D1 cent coin that on the surface looks like just another ordinary penny you might find rattling around in your pocket change, but in reality, because of its unique set of minting mistakes, mechanical errors, striking issues, and production anomalies, this particular cent has been evaluated and discussed in collector circles at a jaw-dropping estimated worth of around $180 million. Which is a staggering figure that transforms what is normally a single cent into one of the most valuable small denomination coins in the entire world. And to understand how a piece of copper-plated zinc could ever reach such astronomical value, we have to begin by looking at the minting process itself. The Denver Mint in 1996 was producing billions of coins under immense pressure, and during high-volume production runs, errors are not just possible but inevitable. So when collectors started noticing examples of the 1996 D penny with anomalies ranging from double die obverse features where the inscriptions like "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1996 show faint but clearly noticeable doubling under magnification, to misaligned dies where the strike appears shifted causing an off-center look, to planchet errors where the penny was struck on an undersized or improperly prepared metal blank, all these factors combine to make certain examples exceptionally rare, and rarity in the world of coin collecting is one of the key drivers of astronomical value. Now imagine a coin that has multiple layered errors at once. For instance, a 1996 D penny struck on a transitional planchet with a double die obverse and a die crack running across Lincoln's portrait. Such a piece would not just be unique, it would be one of a kind, and in auctions where wealthy collectors compete fiercely for exclusivity, one of a kind often translates into millions of dollars in hammer price, which is why stories began to emerge about one particularly spectacular 1996 D penny being sold or valued in private transactions at levels approaching $180 million. And while that number may sound unbelievable, consider how the coin market has surprised us before, such as the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, which have sold for tens of millions, proving that passion-driven demand in numismatics knows no limits when rarity and historical intrigue combine. So when experts describe this 1996 D penny as being loaded with errors, it isn't exaggeration. There are examples with broad strikes where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar leading to a stretched and distorted shape. There are examples with repunched mint marks where there's D has ghostly impressions showing it was struck more than once. There are even cents with lamination flaws where the thin copper plating peeled away, revealing the zinc core underneath, and each variation increases both intrigue and value. Collectors also debate the possibilities of wrong planchette strikes, such as a cent being accidentally struck on a dime planchette, creating a coin that is smaller, thinner, and lighter than normal, yet still bearing a 1996 D-cent design. Such off-metal errors are incredibly sought after, and when attached to a popular modern series like the Lincoln cent, they can skyrocket in desirability. Furthermore, the psychological appeal of a modern coin becoming legendary cannot be overstated, because most people think only ancient coins or centuries-old pieces can be rare and valuable. Yet here is a penny minted in the 1990s that is now considered a treasure worth as much as priceless art. That contradiction fuels both public imagination and collector obsession, making the 1996 D penny a viral sensation in numismatic communities and beyond. And we can't overlook the role of condition in this story, because coins graded at the highest levels by services like PCGS or NGC can achieve exponential increases in value. A mint state or proof-like error penny from 1996 with full luster and sharp details is infinitely more valuable than a circulated piece with scratches and wear. So when you combine gem condition with multiple dramatic errors, you arrive at a scenario where a single cent becomes a museum-worthy artifact. Some stories describe a 1996 D penny with a major obverse cud, which is a chunk missing from the die that creates a raised blank blob on the coin's surface, paired with dramatic doubling of the date and a nearly 30% off-center strike. The combination is breathtaking and essentially unreproducible, meaning only one such coin could exist, and in the world of high-end collecting, exclusivity is everything. Hence the valuation soaring past even the wildest expectations. Skeptics might question whether any penny could truly be worth $180 million, but we have to remember that collectible value is not about intrinsic metal content but about perceived rarity, provenance, and collector passion. When you have billionaires who already own the rarest cars, the rarest art, and the rarest stamps, the chance to own the rarest coin of a modern era becomes the ultimate prize, driving prices to heights that seem unfathomable to ordinary people, but within elite circles it becomes entirely plausible. And what's fascinating about the 1996 D penny is that it continues to draw interest from casual hobbyists too, because anyone might stumble upon an unusual looking penny in their change and dream that they have found the jackpot coin, which keeps the story alive and adds layers of mystique to its legend. Even coin dealers recount tales of customers bringing in jars of pennies asking them to check for errors. With the 1996 D date always sparking excitement, it's this blend of possibility and rarity that makes the narrative so compelling. And for the penny in question, the litany of mistakes ranges from microscopic doubling and die chips to dramatic broad strikes and wrong planchette strikes, creating a universe of possibilities that fuel speculation. The Denver Mint in the 1990s was no stranger to quality control challenges, and collectors theorize that the specific production line for the 1996 D cent may have suffered from worn dies, misfeeds, and misalignments that together produced a cluster of rare error varieties. And while most were caught and destroyed, a handful slipped into circulation, and among those a single specimen containing the ultimate combination of errors ascended to mythic value, eventually being whispered about in private auction rooms as fetching figures like $180 million, which places it above most known coins in history in terms of valuation, cementing its place as the modern crown jewel of American coinage. And so today, when we talk about the 1996 D penny, we are really talking about how human error, mechanical failure, and collector passion can collide to create an object of unimaginable worth, a coin that represents not just a cent but a story, a dream, and an icon of numismatic wonder. And it is this story that continues to captivate audiences, inspiring people to check their pocket change, to research minting errors, and to believe that even the smallest and most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary value if luck, rarity, and history align just right. And that is why the legend of the 1996 D penny, valued at $180 million, lives on, spreading through collectors, dreamers, and treasure hunters who all share in the fascination of how a 1-cent piece could rise to become one of the most valuable treasures in the entire world, reminding us that in the realm of collecting the possibilities are limitless and the hunt never ends.